GM. Good morning, everybody. Let's get a little bit closer. I just rehabbed my office over the last couple of days. Added a wall, a couple doors, building this whole custom house out. Love it. Anyway, great to see you all here. Let's get this party started. There are a few of your friends and colleagues that need a reminder about this phone call, about this opportunity to get coached by Daine. I think we're too nice sometimes, and people take it for granted. GM. Before Renatus, think about how hard it was to find a millionaire who is willing to coach you, answer your questions, guide you, help you avoid any risk, and do it all with a great attitude. Do you know how precious that is and how hard that is to find? But you got to hear, baby. Between all of us here at Team Elevate, with the ISN, with the Real Deal Network, inside of Renatus, man, we got something special. So happy to have you all here. Let's keep sharing that great message. A lot of people need Renatus. We talked last week about underexposure is the new overexposure. You guys know what I'm talking about with that? Underexposure is the new overexposure, meaning if you don't have at least one asset somewhere on your balance sheet, the way that the money gets printed, they're just going to drag the value up and you're going to be left behind. So it's not that we want to do real estate because we like it. Right? Some people do. I mean, I like the land, I like the trees, I like the privacy that a big piece of land brings. But I don't watch fix and flip shows. I don't think about how we can change the color of this. And yeah, I had fun moving the walls and stuff, but some people are builders. I see Mike and Katrina's profile pic here. They love real estate. Great. There's plenty of people for that. But there's also a big portion of us that are buying real estate because we know that if we don't, we'll be left behind. We want to maintain our ability to purchase and store our wealth. So the reason I'm bringing that up is when you go and talk to people about Renatus, about real estate, why they should come take some classes, why they should expand their mind a little bit and, dig your well before you're thirsty kind of idea. I'd say about half the customers that I've converted, when I'm first talking to them, they're not real estate people. They don't have real estate goals. They didn't think about, real estate for their future. That it wasn't anywhere in there. But through attending some workshops, seeing Mitch or seeing Scott, seeing Tamara's presentations, then they go, oh, I need this. Yeah, it's not about real estate per se, right? It's about wealth creation. So GM to that. GM. All right, well, we got a new update on the top 10. So let's go through that real quick. Congrats to all you beautiful people putting in the work, changing people's lives. And you guys deserve some recognition. So let's go for it. In the number one, Mitch and Maylee Nelson. Congrats to you guys. Number two, we're looking at Christopher Jansen from the California team. Well done, Chris. Still in the top 10, Cade Hebdon out of the Idaho team, GM Ryan. Alinda in the number 4 position, Umair Hawk in the number 5. Well done to you. Amanda Carmichael in number 6 position, Richard number 7, Becky and Nate Lambert in the number 8 position. Coming in number 9 is Francisco Diaz from Indiana, Gary, Indiana. And not to be left out is Mr. Benjamin Creelman. So well done to you too. Look at that. That is quite the event. quite the event. That was fun. Okay, so not only do you guys get a nice big check from Mr. Bob Snyder, but you also are making a difference in people's lives, people that you will never meet. And I was thinking about this the other day. I was catching up with an ICM that I hadn't seen in 9 years. No, 2019, 6 years. And I'm gonna get my whiteboard loaded up here real quick. Anyway, we were talking about like who's around, who's doing what deals are happening, what ICMs are where, and it was like one of the measures of success for our program is how often people go full-time real estate and then they're done, right? We don't see them on these calls anymore. They don't come to the weekly meetings. That's totally fine. That's actually one of the benefits of the program is you make so much money. You are so stable with your income, your assets, your net worth, your debt construction that you don't need a job anymore. You don't need to run 2 or 3 or 5 businesses. And what that looks like over a career. So if you think about the fastest way from start to money is marketing, right? Some people are having a 20, 30, $50,000 month this month because of who they introduced to the program. So you take that money, invest it in your knowledge, and so your income shoots right up. But your real estate hasn't done much. You still need to study and do the work. And so now they're moving along together. And then you start doing more deals, and then your real estate starts to really pick up. Then your marketing goes off the charts because people are asking you what you're doing. And then as your real estate goes up, if you don't keep up the marketing, you retire. Maybe 5 to 10 year marketing career. But then now your real estate's off the charts. And only a few of us crazy people market for more than a decade, it seems. But some people are mission driven. I like how Snyder says it at the beginning. He tells new people about the program. He says that students join for the money, but they stay for the relationships. They stay for the people. Hardly anyone joins for the people. They join for the money, stay for the people. And yeah, I mean, it's an exciting thing to see the ripple effect that we can create with doing what we're doing. So keep up the good work, folks. I'll go over the quote of the day real quick. Oh, nice. Right in line with what we're talking about. Education is the one thing no one can take away from you. Education is the one thing no one can take away from you. And remember, education is Latin for educo. Educo means to draw out from within. When you educate someone, the things that they need are already inside of them, and educating them is pulling that out so they can see it. Right? That's the neat thing about what we do here. And being a human, all the answers are inside of us. But sometimes we don't know how to get in and get them out. So we go through an educational process, and it's to draw that from within to be out. And yep. We're in the right place at the right time. Okay, the other thing we're getting in the habit of doing is building up our self-confidence. That's the big determining factor between people who make it and people who don't. So let's go over this real quick. Self-confidence formula. First, I know I have the ability to achieve the object of my definite purpose in life. Therefore, I demand of myself persistent, continuous action towards its attainment, and I here now promise to render such action. Second, I understand the dominating thoughts of my mind will eventually reproduce themselves in outward physical action and gradually transform themselves into physical reality. Therefore, I will concentrate my thoughts for 30 minutes daily upon the task of thinking of the person I intend to become. thereby creating in my mind a clear mental picture of that person. Third, I know through the principle of autosuggestion, any desire that I persistently hold in my mind will eventually seek expression through some practical means of attaining the object or position I desire. Therefore, I will devote 10 minutes daily to demanding of myself the development of self-confidence. Fourth, I've clearly written down a description of my definite chief aim, and I will always work until I develop sufficient self-confidence for its attainment. Fifth, I fully realize that wealth or power can long endure when built upon truth and justice. I will engage only in transactions that benefit all whom it affects. I will succeed by attracting to myself forces I wish to use and the cooperation of other people. I will induce others to serve me because of my willingness to serve them. I have eliminated hatred, envy, jealousy, selfishness, and cynicism, and I've developed love for all of humanity. For I know that a positive attitude towards others will always bring me success. I will cause others to believe in me because I will believe in them and in myself. I will sign my name to this formula, commit it to memory, and repeat it aloud once a day with full faith that it will gradually influence my thoughts and actions so I will become a self-reliant and successful person. GM. Initiative and Leadership. Having chosen a definite chief aim as my life work, I now understand it to be my duty to transform this purpose into reality. Therefore, I will form the habit of taking some definite action each day that will carry me one step nearer the attainment of my definite chief aim. I know that procrastination is a deadly enemy of all who would become leaders in any undertaking, and I will eliminate this habit from my makeup by A, doing some one definite thing each day that ought to be done without anyone telling me to do it. B, looking around till I find at least one thing I can do each day that I have not been in the habit of doing and that will be of value to others without expectation of pay. C, telling at least one person or my whole team each day of the value of practicing this habit of doing something that ought to be done without being told to do it. I can see that the muscles of the body become strong in proportion to the extent at which they are used. Therefore, I understand that the habit of initiative also becomes fixed in proportion to the extent that it is practiced. I realize that the place to begin developing the habit of initiative is in the small, commonplace things connected to my daily work. Therefore, I will go to my work each day as if I were doing it solely for the purpose of developing this necessary habit of initiative. I understand that by practicing this habit of taking initiative in connection with my daily work, I will not only be developing the habit, but I will also be attracting the attention of those who will place greater value on my services as a result of this practice. GM. So let's make it a habit, folks. I'm going to drop a link to this doc in the chat. There we go. And to me, it's clear that the difference between the folks who make a lot of money, have stable income, have been consistently building a portfolio, getting stronger. It's not that they were in Renatus longer. It's not that they watched this class versus that class, or that there's some extra advantage in the comp plan that they have that you don't. It's none of that. What's clear to me is that it's self-confidence. The people who make a phone call, send a text, rope somebody up, bring them to a meeting, show them the power of real estate, and then why Renatus? People who have the confidence to do that change the world. If you don't have confidence, time to build it. And this is a great way to start. And this isn't my idea, to be clear. This was Mr. Napoleon Hill's idea after 35 years of scientific study and 20,000 interviews, including the richest 500 people in the country. Then he came out with this formula and said, this is how. So, doubt me and suffer. Use it and win. So GM to that. All right, it's in the chat if you want it. All right, Wealth Wednesday. let's get it going. Hey, we got 63 days until E3. E3 is our opportunity to make some sales, introduce new students to the program. Also, it's a great way to stay in the know, get the latest and greatest. I mean, since the last E3, we've had a lot of tax bills come through, which affects credit, retirement accounts, borrowing, lending, and you want to stay in the know with that. Seller financing has changed since prices in a lot of areas have been dropping. More and more people are open to seller financing, lease options, these different things. And for the first time since 2008, when comparing new construction to existing homes, new construction is actually cheaper than existing housing. That's only happened one time in the last 60 years that this has been tracked, and it was in 2008. So I don't know what that means, but there's some information. Be prepared. The next year, we could have 3 wrenches thrown in the system when it comes to lending, real estate, pricing, construction. And the people in the know will be just fine. The people on the sidelines are going to be confused. And then there'll just be some people who are paying zero attention. And I don't know how else to say it, but their families are going to die poor. And if you completely stay ignorant of the system, and not to say that rich or poor is good or bad, I'm saying the system is the system. I don't like the Federal Reserve. I don't like that they print money. I don't like that they debase the currency and force people to into assets and leave a bunch of people behind. But it is what it is. So let's use it. Let's use it honestly and ethically to the best of our abilities and improve people's lives along the way. Just like what our trainer for the day has done and continues to do. Mr. Daine Clark is an exceptional human being. The way he lives his life, conducts himself in business and in life, how he treats his wife, raises his kids, works on his mindset. He's a great example. So we're grateful for him to be here today. But when he first joined the program, he had no idea about real estate, about business structuring, about entrepreneurship and freedom. But he became a diligent student. He turned the TV off. He stopped engaging in money wasting activities and time wasting activities and started coming to the weekly meetings, coming to every Super Saturday. I did have to send him a bunch of reminder texts about coming to Super Saturday at the beginning, and but he made it a habit, and that habit has now translated into hundreds of deals and thousands of partnerships and millions of dollars in equity and profit for him, and it continues to go up. It's one reason why we asked him to be here on our Wealth Wednesdays. I know some of you are working on this exact methodology. That's one reason why he keeps showing up, is to answer your questions and help you guys understand the best way to go about these methods so that you can solve the problem, make some money, and stay safe. So without further ado, let's give a big warm welcome to our host for the hour, Mr. Daine Clark. GM.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Wealth Wednesday to you. Can you hear me okay? Yes, should be good.
Loud and clear. Great to see you.
Yes, awesome. Um, and yeah, speaking of, don't let me forget, I've actually, if anybody's looking to do, I don't know if I just need to start calling it the Daine signature move. I mean, I didn't reinvent anything. They were all normal. They were all strategies. Like I haven't recreated any wheels, but I guess I did take the ingredients and bake my own cake. And so it's my cake, sure. And everybody can have a piece. But yeah, I've got one up in Washington, and I just don't know anything about Washington. I don't have a lot of connections up there. And I just had an opportunity to do one of my, I guess you could say, Daine signature moves up there, or Daine signature deals up there. And so yeah, don't let me forget to ask if people are up in that area and want to take this one. Because it's not, I really focus on areas that I really know and have tons of connections. Um, and so I think it was called Walla Walla. Here, let me look.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great spot.
Okay, yeah, I
And,
hadn't heard of it.
and that's the cool thing, folks, is the methods and the design can be used anywhere, and you won't be competing with Dane or with me or with Tamara. You pick your own little neighborhood, and you could make so much money in such a short time and have it be secure. But you have to want it. You have to make something about your definite chief aim that includes that so that it can draw you through whatever distractions or challenges that you have. There will be challenges.
Yes. Oh, sorry, it's Tri-Cities. Tri-Cities area in Washington, which I'm guessing is like central-ish.
Okay.
But
Yeah, we
anywho,
got team members up there. I know Mitch and Maley just enrolled a few people that are now living in Seattle. So
okay, cool. I'll ask them.
Cities is up on the Columbia River, close to the Oregon border. It's where Walla Walla onions come from.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
As I
very
say,
nice area. I've never been there. I've drove by it a few times, but it has a very nice kind of a high desert area.
yep. And
Yeah.
Washington has Nike, I believe, if I remember correctly. Or yeah, Nike, Amazon. There's a couple huge tech people that are in the Seattle area. And oh,
It's
Yeah.
about 8 hours from Seattle, 8 hours east.
you're saying Tri-City?
Yeah, it's about 8 hours east of Seattle.
I
It'd
gotta
be up
Google
be
this.
southeast. Yeah, it's right
right
off
near Idaho.
584.
Yeah, you're practically in Idaho at that point.
I was gonna say my son is in Seattle, but I guess that's a lot a lot farther than where he's at.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, he's there for the dry dock of it. He's in the Navy, so he's only gonna be there until February. So, but yeah, he's looking into buying a property.
But yeah, so
Sweet.
the story on this one is and in fact these are my favorite ones. The current owner bought it on a seller finance contract. And forgive me because I've looked at so many deals in the last like 48 hours, and so I hope I'm not mixing a couple of different stories. But basically, they own the house on a seller financing contract with a balloon payment. They've got a bunch of equity, and the balloon payment's coming due, and so they're going to have to figure something out. They don't quite have the all the ducks in a row that they would need to do their financing. They've tried a bunch of things. Their son is actually a loan officer. And so like he knows. He's like, yeah, we've tried. As a loan officer, he's like, I've tried to do everything I can to help my parents. And he's and I got connected to this guy through like someone else from someone else kind of thing. Anyway, and so he's like, yeah, I need help. I know what you do, Daine. I need help. Can you help them? And and so there's good equity already in the house, which like I say, these are my favorite ones, is that there's already equity and they just got to restructure the current balance. Um, but anywho, I would dare guess, like just off the top of my head, something like this would take very little capital to do just because there's enough equity. But anywho,
It's just not
yeah,
your area. It's still the
yeah,
same
it's just not
structure,
my,
but it's area.
yeah, somebody could do my exact signature move, just not my geographical area.
Your iPad with you?
Let's see. I believe I do.
Because one thing I was thinking about for this morning's call and like trying to diagnose some of the process here is I can find the motivated seller. I can find the buyer. Obviously, the conventional lenders are everywhere, so I can find them too. But my question was, and I have some other people asking too, is like, what if I don't have the private money? Can I still?
Yeah, I think it's in the RV, just right outside the store. Give me one sec.
Okay. Because that's the cool thing is we have all the pieces, but if you don't arrange them correctly, then either the deal won't go through or you won't make the money that you want to make. And I think what we got to do is just get in the habit of just borrowing millions of dollars for a short amount of time. Right? You would go hang out with some people and you're like, hey, you got $1 million? When was the last time you asked someone for $1 million? If you haven't asked someone this year, I mean, we're, over halfway through the year. If you haven't asked someone for $1 million this year, what are you doing with your real estate business? Guys, $1 million used to be a lot of money. Now it gets you one house. You used to get 10 houses for $1 million. So get in the habit of asking. And obviously, there's ways to ask nicely and eloquently, and there's also ways to ask brashly that will push people away. But the point is, you still got to ask. You still got to get in the habit and make it normal in your language. Do you have $1 million? Do you have $1 million? Yeah, I got a way to use $1 million, right? Like I'm not gonna spend it. I'm not gonna go buy groceries and a new car for myself with it. Duh. It's a tool. It'd be like, do you have a reciprocating saw? Do you have this a laser level, right? Like we're just asking about tools, but somehow because it was money, you won't ask. Some of you will, but some of you won't, and that's gonna be your downfall. I think that comes back to what we're starting to do every morning, which is build the habit of self-confidence. So, yeah, it depends on where you're buying for sure. In my neck of the woods, $1 million could buy me maybe 20 properties. But yeah. Let's get in the habit of asking for millions of bucks, millions of dollars. Just, like casually, like it's normal. It's gonna change a lot. So anyway, I'll say it one more time. If you haven't asked someone for $1 million this year, what are you doing with your time? You've been watching your classes, so you know how to spot the deal, right? You've been working on your plan, so you know how to structure the deal. And then at the last second, you don't ask for the money. It's like you want a wife, you see the woman, you're like, yep, that would be the perfect girl to ask, and then you go get in your car and you never talk to her. You got to ask. I was talking with Bill Predabon yesterday about this and how he's raised about $80 million, and the whole thing is just about asking as if you need to borrow a cup of sugar or an egg. It's the money. I'm gonna give it back when I'm done, and here's how it'll stay safe. And like that's the other cool part about the title class and the legal contracts class and all these other things, the insurances, to make sure that people's money is safe, but bringing it up as just a normal, hey, can I borrow your chainsaw? All right, I'll return it with some fresh oil topped off on the gas. I might even sharpen the blades, but I just need to borrow it for a day. Can I borrow $10 million? GM.
Amen to that. Sorry, I missed some of that.
No, it's all good.
All
It's
good
just,
stuff, though.
just me ranting about trying versus not trying. You got to try, folks. It's all out there for the taking. It's not an IQ thing. How many people I've met that are, well, as Jim Rohn would say, they eat with their elbow in their soup. They are not bright or intelligent people, but they got confidence and they go for it. And because of that, they're worth, 10 or $20 million.
Amen to that. All right, go ahead. iPad is up and running.
Okay, so the question is, how dependent is this method on private money? Like, we can find the deals, we can find the seller, we can find the buyers, we can find the conventional lenders to wrap the whole thing, make it long term. But do you have is there a way to do it without private capital, or is that a must?
I'm going to say yes and no, or I guess the famous attorney answer, it depends. So on a deal like this one that I think I ran, I remember looking at the loan to value and it was 72%. And so if you can do deals that loan to values are 75% and below, the capital needed is like minimal because you basically just finance everything through the bank. And that's your capital. Everything you need is capital. And then because your client is bringing so much to the table, so much equity to the table, whether they bring it in cash or like in this one, they bring it in equity, they bring the rest. And so with this one, you could get away with just doing the financing and that's it, nothing else. And so maybe with closing costs, if you didn't roll all your closing costs in, maybe you're out of pocket like $10,000 or something like that. And I haven't done anything in Washington, so I don't know if lending is a little bit different or whatever. But if it's anything like what I do in Utah and Southeast Idaho, you'd probably be out of pocket somewhere between, depending on if you do Fannie Freddie or if you're doing DSCR, if you're doing lender paid, if you're doing buyer paid. On the low end, I'd say 6,000 to 8,000. On the high end, maybe up to like 15,000. But that's like high end in capital needed. And so that's the deals that you don't need capital. If you've got plenty of equity, basically you're just paying for all the closing fees and stuff. But in a case like this, if you just wanted to roll everything in, so I think like I said, I just remember the number being 72% on this one, where I was like, oh yeah, this is a good deal. And so let's say you're like, okay, I don't want to bring any money and I don't want to bring private money, then let's say you just finance 73% of the loan or of the value and you roll all those closing costs into the loan. You can't do everything, but let's say you could get most of that, then you could probably get away with less than $5,000 out of pocket. I've had some where I was like 2,000 out of pocket for the whole deal, 1,000 out of pocket for the whole deal, and still cash flowing like $1,200 a month. And so it's not like, oh yeah, you're $1,000 out of pocket, but then you're $200 a month, and so you're like, yeah, huge return. but no, it's like $1,000 out of pocket and $1,000 a month on deals like this. Now, it's obviously a better above average to have that good of a deal, and they don't come by as often. And so I would say a vast majority of my deals are my client bringing 20%, give or take, and I still do 75% loan to values, and so they bring 20, I bring 5, and so I'm already out of pocket 5% of the value plus closing, and so let's just round this up. It's never 5%, but let's just say it was. So I'm in the deal 10%. And I can go all private on that 10%. Just like Michael said, like I've got people lined up at the door that are like, please take my money and make it make money in, especially in these kind of deals. I even have people that are like, please take my credit, like put my name on the loan and do these deals. And and I'll run the loan and I'll bring the capital. And so, and I don't do the credit partner stuff really anymore, but because DSCR, I just put them all in my name and because having to do all the loans in somebody else's name, especially if they're like not super knowledgeable, it's like getting two loans because you're just extra babysitting and all kinds of. So I just decided I'll just do all DSCR in my name so that I can control all that and manage all that in-house. And if I need private money, then I'll just, like Michael said, I'll call somebody up. Usually for me to get private money, it is a text message. And it's usually something along the lines of, here, let me do the one that we just did on Monday this week.
Yeah,
I'll
and
give
while
you,
you bring that up, what's like the longest, absolutely longest you would need private money to execute on a deal like this?
like how many years, months, whatever. Is that
Yeah.
what you're asking? So on something like this, my signature deals, my goal is to, let's say I'm $20,000 in the deal total. My goal is to collect whatever the cash flow is. So let's say I'm 20,000 out of pocket and I'm $800 a month. And so I'm in fact here, what's the 20 here, let's just do this. $25,000 total times my floor is 30% divided by 12, so 600. So let's say I'm 25,000 out of pocket, make it a 30% cash on cash, cash on cash flow, whatever, cash on cash, money coming in. So that's $625 a month. And so my mindset, when I first started looking at these, my mindset was I wanted that residual because the other kind of real estate that I do, I get paid like I'll be lucky to get paid on maybe 1 or 2 in August, but last month I got paid on like 6 or 7, and then September I might get paid on a whole bunch more. So it's up and down, it ebbs and flows. And so I was like, how can I make this consistent to at least have a floor of monthly? And the only thing I could think of was rentals until Tony Scotti was like, hey, I'm doing contract for deed. And I'm just like, dude, that's like a rental but better. Anyway, so my mindset with these going in was, okay, if I can put $25,000 in and make a 30% cash on cash or cash on cash flow, however you want to say that, return, basically receive $625 a month. How long do I want to receive how long do I want to receive $625 a month? And my answer was forever. Can I have it forever? Like if I just leave that $25,000, like let's say I had 25,000 in the savings account and I moved $25,000 over to 123 Main Street contract for deed deal, and I'm getting $625 a month. And I asked myself, how long do I want $625 a month and leave $25,000 in this deal? It was always forever. Yeah, I'll take that forever, please. And so typically when I'm even raising money for these types of deals, I ask them that same question. How long do you want to receive $625 a month or whatever it is that their portion is? And they're usually like, can I have it forever or a very long time, essentially? And so on this type of deal, that's the mindset. But I will say that every house in this country, the average loan amount, in fact, Ryan could maybe give me a better detail if it's changed, but 5 to 7 years is the average turnover for mortgages. And so I've got some that have gone several years, and I've got some that only went like 1 or 2 or 3 years and refinanced. And so that's the average. But if I had my way, I would take that for 30 years and maximize that. But that's my current mindset. I'm not trying to recapitalize myself because yeah, I technically make more money if I churn these, right? Because if I buy a house for 600,000, I turn around and sell it for 660, and that basically just rolls into my loan or my contract with my client. If they pay me off in 1 year, I basically realize that extra 60 plus whatever cash flow. And so, yeah, technically I make more per capita if I churn them, but I'm not in a position in my life where I want to just capitalize. I just want this money working, cash flowing. And so yeah, so long answer, but it depends essentially.
And you don't see any slowing down like over the next 5, 15, 25 years. Like this is just I guess some people are like, oh, I've been hearing Daine talk about this for years and I'm too late.
No. In fact, technically, when banks like where I'm seeing this right now, when banks tighten up, I get a whole slew of people that call me, because I network with tons and tons of people. In fact, if I pull up my contacts and I just type in realtor, since the time that I started tracking, what they are, basically in my contacts say, oh, this person's a realtor. I've got 182 realtors, and I would guess, it just froze. I would guess many lenders as well. And so I network with tons and tons and tons of people, realtors, lenders. Those are typically the ones who are facing this type of client, right? So the person that gave me the referral out in Tri-City, Washington, he's a lender. And when I network with people, I basically just tell them stories. And so all these lenders, all these realtors have heard my stories of helping people in a situation, real people. And then all of a sudden they find themselves in that situation and they're like, dang it, wait a second. Daine Clark told me a story like this. and he helped the person that was in the story. I think he can help this, so like this person is like, this referral, this is his own parents. He's like, Daine, will you help my mom and my dad? And because he's heard the stories. And so typically whenever things go up and down, banks always tighten up, right? They tighten their fists. Oh, way more regulation, way more conditions, whatever. Now you have to do it this way. It's so funny. Like I was in the middle of getting a loan once, and what do they call them? Not conditions, but guidelines, basically. Basically like what the lender has to follow, and or what the borrower has to follow. And like right in the middle, they changed their guidelines. And so then we had to like go get all this all these new details and documents and prove this and prove that. And because they were just changing them. So, in the last year, they've been changing them so fast. And so when you see stuff like that, demand for what I do goes up because of that very, basically the exact situation that I just presented. This young man is helping his parents trying to refinance their house. And for whatever reason, banks have tightened up. He's like, yeah, they make good money, but the banks won't lend. They've got good equity, amazing equity, 72% loan to value. Like lenders salivate over stuff like that because they're easier than a 99% loan to value or whatever. FHA is what, 97%, 96 and a half. And so these good loan to values are lower hanging fruit, if you will. And so yeah, so demand technically goes up when things are changing, and it would go the other way when things are going down. Banks are tightening up, and so demand for what I do goes up. Now let's even go back to when things were really good and I could go get 3%. Demand was still high because there's people like business owners still existed, and that's been around. All those parameters that business owners have to follow. That's been around for I mean, as long as I've been alive, I'm sure that you have to have all these hoops you got to jump through as a business owner versus having a W-2. Immigrants still exist, and I'm trying to think who else are commission sales. Like, there's people that earn commission that go to the lender and say, hey, yeah, like, let's say like knocking doors. Let's say they sell pest control or something like that. So they make all their money in the summer and then they live the rest of the year because they make so much money in the summer. Lenders typically don't like that. Like, there was one gal that I helped that she did taxes, and so she made all of her money like in April, and the rest of it was not as consistent. And the lender, she had amazing credit, even like really, really good credit score, but because of how that income was sporadic like that, the lender just kept telling her, sorry, like, you have to have, call us back when you have consistent income that you can present, where your bank statements are just same deposits every month, whatever, or 2 years of tax returns. And she didn't have either. And so I helped her out. And same thing, I bought the house, turned around, sold it to her. And she worked on it for 2 years and filed the taxes, and then called me up and said, hey, I think I'm finally ready and I can refinance you out. And so cash flowed that one for 2 years, and then realized that the increase that I bought and then turned around and sold to her, and it rolled into our contract. And so anywho, but yeah, I think I saw, was it Tamara has a question?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hey, Daine. Good morning, everyone. Or GM. So this has been a little wild. I've been working on doing your thing for like a year. And now all of a sudden, like, it's all happening at once.
I knew this would happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Go ahead.
it's been interesting. So I guess I have multiple questions. My first question is, this is not so much your strategy, but it definitely came from, like, all wealth is created through conversation. This is a Bill Ome thing. So, but I've been talking to all these agents and letting them know, what I'm doing, and I'm pitching your thing. But this agent's like, hey, well, I know you're doing this, but are you interested in buying mobile home parks? And I was like, yeah. And I've been doing this with Bill Ome for since COVID. And like, this one just happens to hit like all the green checks. So long story short, my question is, I'm about to go under contract with it, but what ended up happening, the lender is like, well, there's multiple owners on the park because it's a family park. So they have the daughter, the son, the mother, the father. And I didn't know this until the lenders were about to pre-approve me. And now all of a sudden it threw them off because we found out like 3 days in. So they stopped the pre-approval. They didn't stop it. It's just taking longer. But my question is, have you experienced that? Like, they're just like, we're trying to push it through. We just need to check with underwriting to figure out how we can do this. Or there's no going to be no problems later or something.
I don't understand why it matters. And maybe it's just because, does your contract have, let's say there's 5 owners. Does your real estate purchase contract have 5 signatures?
No, I don't. Hold on. Let me think.
So that might be the only thing that I can think that they would, is let's say there's 5 owners and the real estate purchase contract only lists one of them, and they're the ones who signed. Technically, for you to buy this, there would have to be, again, just using the example of 5 owners, there would have to be 5 signatures on both the real estate purchase contract and the deed when you buy, the warranty deed or whatever. And so without 5 signatures on the real estate purchase contract, title wouldn't know how to write up the warranty deed and have everybody sign. It becomes a big waste of time. I've been in the middle of one. Thankfully, I wasn't involved, but I kind of helped out, but was in the middle of one where it was an inheritance, and I can't remember the number, but it was like 6 or 7 signers. So everybody, we had to get 6 or 7 signatures just to sell or just to buy this house. And it was not fun, especially because the siblings or heirs or whoever, I can't remember if it was like all just siblings or if it was, once removed. So a couple generations lower and upper, like tons of signatures, and ended up pulling it off, but it was not fun. And so I'm going to guess that whoever said, hold up, has probably seen something like that where, oh, there's a bunch of signers and they're not on the real estate purchase contract. Oh, yeah, I bet it's it. I did a flip like that, inheritance, 6 signers on a wholesale contract. Yeah. So it's like herding cats.
Oh, it's just like this lender has like, it's hard because I don't have a lot. It's not like a lot of people are funding mobile home parks. I have 2
Mhm.
people literally. But this lender has been such a challenge, like just to get the pre-approval letter. And I'm nervous if it's this much work to get the pre-approval letter. Like,
Yeah, I get that.
so
At the end of the day, I mean, I could probably say the same about some of these that I did. At the end of the day, it just becomes like, what do you want more? Do you want to jump through their hoops, or do you want this deal?
right.
Or not
So
want this deal, I guess. Like, which one do you want more? The deal or not to jump through the hoops.
yeah,
And with that kind of lending, like, you just jump through the hoops. But like Michael was saying, if, like, let's say you go all private, and if the numbers work, of course, if you go all private and the numbers still work, then it becomes as easy. Oh, that's right. I was pulling up a text message, and um, let's see. Oh, that's right. This one was. In fact, you know what? This will be good because you can see how I raise money at the same time um, as increase money raised. And so this was a longer text than usual. This is what I was pulling up. So to raise the money that we did on Monday, I basically said, hey man, would you guys want to do a touch and go? Because this guy's money was in a deal and he was getting paid out on like a Friday, and I had a deal lined up for that Friday. And so I was like, hey guys, would you want to do a touch and go? I've got everybody maxed out at the moment, but this deal is so good, I'm willing to float it and just, oh, that's right. And I even said like, hey, worst case scenario, if you don't get paid back in time, I'll just float it and then you reimburse me. Anyway, so I'm willing to float it just out of my reserve savings I keep for if we have a deal, and I'll just get reimbursed when you're done. You should be getting paid back $106,376.71. I could put back to work more than that, all of that, some of that, or none of that. And I just happen to know that this guy wants to churn his money. So, and he said, let's see, could possibly do more if you wanted me to put back. Oh, because I said this deal I need 99,000, and so of the 106 that he's about to get paid back, but could possibly do more if you wanted me to. Let's see, I'll just do all the paperwork in advance. I'll float it and then have you reimburse me. And so one text message at 9:54 a.m. last week, and then he texted me 2 hours later, sounds good, plan on 110,000. So basically more. I was able to raise $11,000 in that simple text message. So and I do this like with everybody. So when I have lending partners getting paid back, I tell them, hey, here's how much you're getting paid. I don't tell them what their principal was in this text, unless they ask, but they usually don't. I say, hey, whatever, I disregard whatever the principal is. Hey, you're getting paid back this much money. Do you want to, 1 of 4, put more than that back to work, all of that back to work, some of that back to work, or none of that back to work? You're the boss. You say jump, I'll say how high. And so with that one simple text message, I was able to raise, because his original principal was 99,000. And And then he said, let's do 110. So I basically raised $11,000 with a simple text message. And so yeah, because he texted me back and says, sounds good. Plan on putting back 110,000. And I just said a thumbs up. And so that's how easy it becomes to raise, let's say another, or say, so raise another, I don't know. I guess you could argue I raised 110,000 because every deal I do, when it's done, they get paid back in their own bank account and it's in their control and they can do whatever they want. And so I basically said, hey, 110,000, another $110,000 raised for a new deal. But yeah, that's how easy it becomes. But sometimes they're like really simple. So if I go to one of my big guys, that has basically, I've done enough deals with this big guy that that I just know he's like, yes, I always want to compound. And so I'll text him messages like, it's funny because it's getting more and more, I hate to say lax, but chill. And so I just text him out of the blue. Deals are a coming, sunglasses emoji. I've got a really good one that needs $249,000. Let's see. This one will most likely make monthly payments. So, just a little bit of details about the deal. And he just texts me back, go with V and, or he's got 2 different companies that he lends out of. And so I was just specifying, do you want to do this company or that company? And he says, go with V and B. So yeah. Hey, I've got a good one. $249,000 closes on, let's see, did I even tell him when? No, I didn't even tell him when. Closes soon. And he just says, use this company. So raise $249,000 over a text message. Now, obviously, I've done a lot of them, but that's the goal. Is you got to do the first one, and then even on the very second deal with the same person, I would use that language like, hey, you're about to get paid back this much money. Do you want to put back more than that? All of that, some of that, or none of that? You're the boss. You say jump, I say how high. Like that's like my template text. What do you want to do? And oftentimes they're like, all of it. So, but yeah. Anyway. So tomorrow, did we answer your question?
Yeah, I basically just
Okay.
have to keep jumping through the hoops.
Just decide, is it worth it? Which one do you want more? To not jump through the hoops or to do the deal? And so if you want to do the deal more than you don't want to jump through hoops, do the deal. But if you're like, this deal's not worth it to me to jump through the hoops, like, just say next. We'll do a different one. And neither one is wrong. Like, I love how real estate, you choose your headaches. You decide what you want. And you get to choose your own headaches. But I can't remember who said that, but I took that to heart when I heard that advice. Choose your headaches. Because all real estate has headaches. All of them. Just choose which headaches you want to deal with.
Yeah, I do have yeah, so true. I do have one more important question.
Go ahead.
So ironically, the same agent is bringing me 2, and I think the buyers are finally qualified that are going to do your strategies now. So they're in the process of finding the houses. So I'm just hoping I can wrap up this one deal. But my question is, when you start the seller finance notes, and I know this is something I can get from the classes, but how do you set up the numbers for the note? Like when they're paying you the rent, like what numbers do you use? Is it 2% above what's going on with the mortgage you get?
Again, it depends. So back in like 2019 and 2020 and 2021 and most of 2022, I was getting like 3%. And I was charging 7.25 to my clients. And so what's that, like a 4.25% spread? Just for perspective. And I never even talked about, I'm gonna, whatever interest rate I get, I never told him what my interest rate was. I basically just said, oh, it's 7.25%, and nobody even balked at it. The only reason that I've now used the language like, oh, I'll just do 2% above was in 2022, rates started going up like every single month. I had a HELOC at that time. Like the payment was increasing for, with the same balance. The payment was increasing hundreds of dollars a month every single month just because the rates were going up so fast. And which was a whole story for another day. But anyway, rates were going nuts, and so I basically I could no longer just like quote it and say like, oh, here's the interest rate, where I knew that if I got like 3.25, or if I got 3.5, or if I got 3.75, or 3.12, it didn't matter because I was charging 7.25. And so the only reason I changed to that model, like, oh, I'm just going to do whatever I get plus 2, was because rates are they were so volatile. I couldn't just quote it because the next week it'd be different. And so, and rates have actually been really stable for, I would say, at least like a year. I'd have to go back and see. In fact, here, I should be able to look at this just on my sheet. Let's see, interest rates. Yeah, rates have been pretty darn stable since December of 2022. They've only been plus or minus like 0.125. Oh, just kidding, 0.5%. So the biggest swing I see is not even like basically a 3.75 swing. 3.75% swing top to bottom since December of 2022. And so they've been pretty consistent, but I ended up just keeping that language because it was easy. It was easier to just say, oh yeah, whatever interest rate I get, 2% more. And so if I get 7.125, then I charge them 9.125. If I get, like I see one here, I get 7.49, I charge them 9.49. I just got 3 in a row not too long ago at 6.999. I charged them 9, basically, or 8.999. And so it just became, I really just did that because it was easier to just be like, hey, here's what it is. Because then I don't have to play like, okay, here's the quote, here's the expectation, and then go back to my lender and say, oh shoot, it actually is 7.49 now. And I'm like, oh, dang it. I quoted them at 9. And so now I'm only 1.5 spread. But yeah, so you run it however you want to run it. Let's say you can all day close them at like 9.5 or 10. And I've got a couple at that. I've got a handful at 9.5. I've got a few at 10. Let's say you can close them all day at that. Then that's just your quote, because then on the back end you can go get, like I just got a quote yesterday at 6.8, probably like 6.875, I would guess, because banks usually plus or minus 0.125%. And so let's say you just know like you're going to be in that range, then you just give them the quote. The only reason I changed was because it was a moving target so much, and I couldn't bank on my quote being the same even 48 hours later sometimes. And so yeah.
Are you giving 30-year terms, or does it depend?
I like doing 30 years because again, my goal is I want to set this and forget it. And if it pays out for 30 years, like if this person doesn't talk to me for 30 years and they just made the payment, and then they're like, hey, I made my last payment. Oh, who are you? That's my goal, is to almost forget. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love these people, but the goal is to just set these and forget them. I'm not doing this to churn them quickly and make tons of money. I want to set it and forget it, still make really good money, because a 30% cash on cash, I'm not complaining about by any stretch of the imagination. But my original goal to do these was for extreme passive cash flow. And so I always do 30-year terms. I do no balloon payments. I do no early payoffs as well. In fact, maybe I should start doing early payoffs to promote them to go for a long time. But oftentimes I just get people that if I say, oh, early payoff fee, they're like, and people don't like to hear the fee stuff. And so I try to just come off as like, hey, I'm super easygoing. I will help you. In fact, it allows me to say this phrase, which is like a buzz phrase for people. Like it gives them warm fuzzies. I tell people all the time, I will help you as long as you need my help. If you only go a couple of years and you refinance me out, great. If you go 30 years and you pay off the whole contract, this house is yours, free and clear. You will have the deed of the house free and clear in your name, and it's your house. And so it allows me to say that warm fuzzy that people are like, man, I like this guy. This is a nice guy. And so, yeah.
And you're doing contract for deed, right? Or it's right when you
Contract
it's
for
not,
deed.
yeah.
Yeah, vast majority of the time. I did just do an all-inclusive trust deed. And it was just because I knew the guy actually. In fact, I think I told this story on this call. I had a contract for deed. The husband passed away and the wife quit working. And she wasn't even able to make the payment anyway. And so she ended up moving out, and I told her like, hey, I won't foreclose on you. I will help you though. If you want to give me control of the house, I will help you get the house sold, and you don't have to make a payment. I won't foreclose, and I will help you sell it, and then you can get some equity out, or get your equity out when I sell the house for you. And she was like, done. And so on that particular house, I tried to sell it on seller financing again, but ended up getting a traditional offer that they were just going to pay cash for it. They were selling their house in like Maryland or something like that. And so we went under contract. They had to sell the house in Maryland, which I don't love, but whatever. It seemed like a pretty solid one. Like a week before, their Maryland house was under contract to sell, and something happened with their buyer's financing. And so they called my realtor up, me up, whatever, me realtor, and said, hey, like, I think we're just going to cancel it because we don't know when this is going to close. We don't want to wait on you guys. And so I tried to seller finance it to him and said, hey, just do a lease option or I'll seller finance it to you. And then as soon as your house sells, like, you just pay me off and the house is yours. But they just like, they didn't understand it. And so it was hard to wrap their mind around it. Anyway, property hits the market. We put it back on the market, and I get a phone call. And it's somebody that's done flips with me as a hard money lender. They borrow money from me. And he says, hey, Daine, can I get a proof of funds? I want to make an offer on a house in Wellington. And I'm like, Wellington? Like there's like population few hundred in this town. And I was like, where's the house? And so he started telling me the story. He's like, yeah, I just fell out of contract because the buyers flaked, whatever. And I was like, and I asked him, like, is this house on Main Street? He's like, no, I don't think so. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe it's not my house. Anyway, so he starts telling me more of the story. I was like, dude, are you sure this house isn't on Main Street? And I started saying like, I can't remember what else, but I started like basically putting words in his mouth of telling him the story. He's like, how do you know? I was like, dude, this is my house. Anyway, so he's trying to get a proof of funds from me to buy my house with hard money. And I was like, and so I just told him, I was like, dude, what do you want to do? And he's like, oh, I want to fix it up and turn it into a vacation rental that I can use because I've got connections up there. So I can use it when I'm up there, or when I'm not there, it'll be just a vacation rental for the general public. And so he's like, I'm going to fix it up and I'm going to refinance it. And I was like, all right, let's do seller financing, because then I'll save you money. Instead of buying hard money from me, I will seller finance it to you and save you money there. And if I do an all-inclusive trust deed, it'll be a little bit easier for you to refinance because there's no seasoning requirements and stuff like that. So I just did an all-inclusive trust deed. So it's not like the law, I guess, that I do contract for deed, but 99% of the ones I do are contract for deed. I'll make exceptions when it's kind of needed. Like in this case, he wants to refinance in less than a year. Contract for deed, oftentimes you need a 1-year seasoning in order to do your refinance. And so I was like, yeah, I'll scratch your back. I'll help you out. The only other, I'm trying to think the other time I did a all-inclusive was, an HOA. I had an HOA that did not like the contract for deed just because they didn't understand it. People fear what they do not know. And so HOA was like, oh, you're just trying to get cute and you're trying to get around our no rental policy, because this HOA, they did not allow rentals. Contract for deed, an uneducated person could mistake it as a rental because I'm on title, they're living in the house, and there's nothing else on public record that really shows that they're buying it. Because on public record, we just do a notice of interest. And it's kind of vague. It says, hey, there's a contract between me and this person. And so the HOA was like, had their panties in a wad basically. And so I just said, you know what, I'll just do an all-inclusive trust deed because then at least you guys understand this and I can prove to you that I'm not just trying to get around your rental restrictions. So those are a couple of times I've done it all-inclusive, but I prefer the contract for deed just because it's just a little easier in multiple ways. Easier on the banks because then you don't trigger due on sale clauses. In the scenario where that gal like lost her husband and needed me to take over, it was easier to help her out. But yeah, most of the time I do contract for deed. Great question.
Versus a note, right?
Versus an all-inclusive trust deed.
Oh,
All-inclusive trust deed and note. Because a contract for deed, like to apples compare the two, an all-inclusive trust deed, there is a trust deed on public record and then a note that is held privately that nobody will ever see, right? That note is held privately that nobody ever sees by you. In a contract for deed, what goes on public record is a notice of interest. You don't have to, but I like to do that because it protects everybody. So on public record goes a notice of interest instead of the trust deed. And so there's still something on public record in both scenarios, but the contract for deed is held privately, much like the note is held privately. And so honestly, like if you took contract for deed and erased the top and put note, the terms are the same. Like it's like all the details would basically be the same exact thing between the note and the contract for deed. The terms, the language, most of the language, there'd be very, very little difference between the two. On a note, an all-inclusive trust deed and note, the note portion would be almost identical to the contract for deed. Like I said, you could almost erase contract for deed and write note at the top and then just change very few other things and they would be the same. If that like helps put this into perspective.
I always forget. They're so similar. I always forget what the actual differences are.
And same thing, like even if you did like, let's say you own the house free and clear and you had a trust deed, so not an all-inclusive trust deed, but just a trust deed and note, same thing, it would be almost identical. The note portion is almost identical to the contract for deed portion. Apples to apples. And so terms, it would be the same. I would put the same terms on the contract for deed as if I was doing the note, because the terms are ultimately what I want out of it. The cash flow, the interest rate, that kind of stuff. The payment, the balance. But yeah, great question. Did you say it a couple?
Yeah, I have one more question. This is just like I'm getting I'm a little bit backed up and I have to so I have a lease option who is going into seller finance, and she's essentially executing the option. It's actually my first person I've ever done this with, and I'm really excited. But she's waiting.
So you're executing your own option. Like you already have the option between you and her. And
she's
you have
executing
offered
my option. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Is you are executing her option via seller financing?
I'm gonna turn it. She went from a lease option, now she's executing and I'm turning it into seller finance or contract for
And
deed,
you
essentially.
will be the seller financier.
Correct.
Like you're still getting cash flow. Okay, yeah. Awesome.
So yes, thank you. So, but two things. So
That's a great one to like do with training wheels on, because she's probably, you've already got a previous relationship with her, and so she'll be a little bit forgiving as you go through this your first time. Like, amazing first deal to choose, in my opinion. Not required. Like, I don't want to tell everybody else like, oh, you have to do it like Tamara's, but yeah, this would be a great one for you to go through the first time, because it'll feel like the training wheels kind of.
Yeah. And the training wheels have already been applied, because I'm unfortunately the one running a little bit behind on turning it into, because I have to refinance it. And at first it took me a minute because it's a smaller one, and it took me a minute to find a lender that would do the refinance. I finally found one, and now that I finally found him, I have to get myself organized to do the refinance. So I'm behind now, like 3 or 4 months, which is a little bit frustrating for me. But all that to be said is, so it's my fault essentially that it's behind. She was ready to go.
I mean, she's still making payments, right?
She is.
Yeah. So
my only concern is that, and she's at this point, like I told her that what we'll do, since it's my fault, is I'll apply these payments towards when we finally do move it over.
yeah, I do the
with
same.
Okay, cool. So I'm just concerned because now essentially we're out of contract. So my question is, should I set up a new contract, or I should be able to refinance in the next month or two? I just had to get a little bit, move some things around, but
just do an addendum on your lease option, and in the addendum, just say extend to this such and such a date. And you can even specify like this much of that payment will apply towards principal. And you can even go back and say, okay, here's the extension to the addendum extension to the lease option, and say, here's how much of this many previous payments, make sure that you have like an exact dollar amount. So this much of the previous payments for this many payments, AKA this dollar amount, will be applied towards principal. And going forward from today's date, every payment will apply X amount of dollars to principal until executed. And basically it's literally like potato. It doesn't really matter if it took you 6 more months. She's still getting the benefit that she wanted. She's getting amortization today, and you're working on just restructuring it. So it really is just becomes a paperwork restructure.
right.
So yeah, so you can keep everybody happy at the same time, even though, like you said, you feel like this one, you need the training wheels. And that's why I say this one's so forgiving, because you have all these things in place that make it to where you can like, oh, like I'll basically make it as if it was already amortization, that principal portion of the payment. So it makes no financial difference to her.
Right. Okay. Got it. So, okay. Perfect. All right.
Yeah, just do an addendum
And do it now, right? Like
if you want. I mean, I'm going to guess that you've got the integrity that you're like, hey, this is my fault, and so I'm just going to give you this. And so you could just tell her that, and if she accepts it, then great. Like, just say, okay, yeah, I'll just prorate and give you this benefit. But if she's like, if you feel like any nervousness from her, and she's like, like I don't want Tamara to take advantage of me, like if you feel any of that, just say, okay, yeah, I'll do an addendum that we extend the option deadline to this far out, and then you specify this many payments that you've already made. We'll have this portion of that payment towards principal, and then going forward, like, you don't have to do that, to be honest.
No,
It's good practice, yes.
Yeah.
But not, I mean, ultimately you could still give her the same deal without doing any extra paperwork. Would I do it? Yes. But I'm not saying like you absolutely, like it's not dire. So don't stress.
Okay. All right. Well, it's really all me. She hasn't even flinched. She's just like, okay. So, and I will obviously follow through on my word. It's just annoying for me because I don't like being late.
Yeah. Pat, it's Carlos Dominguez. Dominguez. I'd love to use his Renatus example. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, dude, I'm not sure if you guys heard about that, but he set his family up. He used the system, the Renatus system. And so sucks for his family, yes. Let's see, I think, did he leave 3 kids? 3 or 4 kids. I think 4 kids. Little kids. Like I think his oldest was like 9 or 10, and the youngest was like 4. Because he used the system, his family couldn't ask for more. I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to, Pat, that you want to use as his example. But they own a bunch of real estate. She's selling some of it that she doesn't want to manage, cashing out. Insurance, like she's taken care of. It's awesome. As good as it could be for that really sad situation. Yeah, super sad news, but cool. All right, we're 9:30 and I've got appointments to get to. So thank you all for comments, questions, interaction. Love helping you guys do anything that you need. Go have conversations. I'll see you next week. And yeah, love you all.
Thank you, Daine.
Thanks, Daine. Thanks, Tamara.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, everybody else participating. Let's go out and make a big difference out in the world. All right, everyone. See you soon. Bye for now.